Don't you want to put it there?
Well, we'll do, we should have the PowerPoint. So you guys are on film. Okay. All right, so sorry about the delay, everyone. We're gonna get started. I have a couple of announcements before I turn it over to our presenters. One announcement is that this Saturday is going to be our greenhouse orientation. We're also going to do a farm safety orientation, and so please try your best to be there. We'll start at 10 a.m. and it will likely go until noon. After that, I would encourage people to bring your lunch, because I know that first year farmers are meeting with Eric afterwards, and I think that we might end up staying a little bit late. So bring your lunch. And also, I know Waku, I think you're the only one who it applies to, but to bring your flats and your seeds and your materials. We're also going to start learning how to enter in planting records in the Ag Squared application. And so if you have not yet entered in your seeds, try to do that before Saturday. And it should be fixed. The application developer, the only difference is that we should never delete crops. So I originally said that you could delete any of the crops that were appearing, and so that is something apparently that is connected between all of the accounts. So don't delete any more crops, but you should be able to add in all of your seeds, and there shouldn't be any more problems. So try to do that before Saturday, and if people need a refresher, I believe Trisha put the video up of the class, but I can still, if you have questions, you can call me or email, and we can do our best to answer questions. So if you missed that training, hopefully you can watch the video and get caught up. But try your best to have your seeds entered in by Saturday. Is it working?
Yeah, it's working. I don't have it here.
Oh, I think, and this thing like this, does it turn? No, it doesn't. It's kind of tricky. Sorry. Sorry, I'm scatterbrained right now. I also wanted to remind people that next Wednesday we have scheduled for everyone to make a presentation about their farm plans. So do your best, even if you don't have everything perfect, bring what you have, and we'll just take 5 to 10 minutes per farm team. So shared plot farmers, anyone else who's farming individually, shared plot farmers can go together and do the presentation as a group, and everyone else can go individually, take 5 to 10 minutes just to share what plans you have made so far for the season. And the assignment was one we handed out on our first day of class. And so there was a section about your crop production. You're gonna present on what you're growing, and you're gonna present on your markets, management, and your financials. So if you can share whatever plans you have together, I think just to learn from each other and so you can understand what everyone else is doing. And I'm going to try to get other folks that haven't been coming regularly to class to be able to share their plans too, so you can see what some of the other farmers are going to be doing too. So that's next week. So hopefully you can work together to come up with a short presentation before.
So next Monday or Wednesday?
Next Wednesday. Yeah. So we have greenhouse orientation on Saturday. There's no class Monday. But there is that farm plan presentations will be Wednesday night. So if anyone wants to present on the computer using the projector, if you can email me whatever you want to present sometime before class, that would be helpful. Or you can also bring it on a memory stick. And we can figure that out. Otherwise, if people also want to like pass around paper copies, or we can have people walk around the room and you can hold your plans, however it works for people. We can be really flexible. Does anyone have questions about that? I think it's pretty open-ended, so people can choose to present however you want to. And the other assignment that's due on that day is the farm resource assignment. If you remember, that was another thing we handed out on the first day. And I asked everyone to come up with like 2 or 3 organizations and connect with them that provide some sort of support or services to farmers. And so I'm hoping you can bring a couple of ideas of like what are some organizations you've either met someone from or learned about within the first couple of months of class, and what are the services that they provide to farmers. And it could be something that you heard from a presenter that talked in class, or it could be something that you learned about at a different conference, or something that you found on your own. And then we're gonna just share them all with each other during the class on Wednesday so that we can kind of see like all the other resources the other farmers have found about too. Okay, so those are next week's class, essentially, is what we're gonna be doing. And I also have been working on the schedule for April and beyond. And so I have 2 handouts. One of them, this big one, is a schedule draft. So it's not final, so don't use this as your final schedule, but you can look at it and see what are the things that I already have planned. Most of those things are pretty decided upon. They should be pretty accurate. Maybe some of the dates or presenters will be updated. But I also have room in our schedule to plan some additional classes or field days. And I wanted to give you the opportunity to give me your opinion on what classes and field days you would like to see. And so I'm gonna also pass out this survey, which I listed a list of ideas that I thought might be interesting for people. And there's also some blank lines on the bottom so that you can write in your other ideas if I did not think of them on the other lines. And so classes could happen at our farm, Big River Farms, or they could also be farm tours. So I think I only have 1 or 2 farm tours on the schedule so far. And so I would love your ideas of what kind of farms you would like to see this summer. So if you can take a look at this, and then maybe during the break or after class, you can hand these in to me before you leave tonight. That would be great. Does anyone have questions about those 2 things?
I have a question on the shared plot skills.
Okay.
It says Wednesday with a question mark.
Yes.
30.
I didn't cover that. So we have to, so basically May usually works with the shared plot farmers to find the best time and day that works with your schedule. And so last year it was on Thursdays. But this year it could be Wednesdays. We're used to having class on Wednesdays, so we could stick with that and you could come there after work. Or a lot of times May usually works with people on Saturdays in the greenhouse. May does get busy herself with markets on the weekends in the growing season, and so it was nice to have a weekday evening to work with the shared plot. But so that's something that I still need to work out, I guess, between you all and May. And this year there's also 2 shared plots, so it might be one day with one shared plot and another day with another shared plot, or maybe it can be the same day and she'll work with both of you kind of at the same time. So that can be something hopefully we can chat about and decide on in the near future. Maybe today, or maybe on Saturday. So.
Are you talking about this part?
Yeah, the first thing. Any other questions? Yeah. So if you can just look over those and fill this out. I said check your top 5. So I don't want you to check all of them because I know all of them are probably interesting to most people, but I want to try to narrow them down by which ones are the most interesting because we can't do all of them. So please just choose 5 and you can just make a check mark. And you can check all 4 of your own ideas and 1 more of mine if you want, however you want to do it. Okay, I don't want to take up too much more time with my announcements, but I have a couple more, I'm sorry. There is also another workshop that's happening in March, so it's not on my schedule because we don't have it going back into March. But Land Stewardship Project, they also hosted the market forum last week on Thursday. They're hosting a workshop on finding farmland, and it is the last Saturday in March, so Saturday, March 30th. And it's an all-day training, 9:30 a.m. to 4 p.m. And it's in Northfield at the public library. And so if anyone is interested in going to this training, I highlighted the really important information. They do want you to RSVP, so to respond. And this gives them a description about what they're going to talk about. But if you're interested in learning all about finding farmland, this is an optional training that's free. So I'm going to pass this around. You can just pass it around.
Is that similar to the one they had here at the Good Acres?
You know, I'm not sure. I assume it will probably have some similar content. It is a different organization. So the one that was here was hosted by Renewing the Countryside. This one is hosted by Land Stewardship Project.
Okay.
And so it's probably sort of similar, but it might not be exactly the same.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. And then, one more thing, and then I will stop talking. So, I also mentioned a couple of weeks back that there is another farm, another incubator farm that trains beginning farmers in Des Moines, Iowa. And they invited us to visit them. And the best day that works for them is Friday, April 19th to Saturday, April 20th. So it would be leaving after work and then coming home in the evening on Saturday. And it's another incubator farm. It's run by Lutheran Social Services of Iowa. And they do really similar things, I think, to what we do at our farm. And so their farmers would be there to meet with you all if you're interested. And we could kind of base whatever we do on people's interests. But I wanted to see if people are available that weekend and they would like to go. And so I'm gonna we would be able to cover the cost of transportation and lodging and food for that time. We would probably carpool and then reimburse people for gas. And so it's optional. And I just want to send this around. I don't know if people are available or not. So if you are available and if you would go, if we do this, I just am hoping you can write your name and how many people. Like if it would be you and a significant other or just you, write the number of people in your name. And if you don't know yet, maybe just let me know before Saturday or on Saturday. So I'm also going to pass this around with a pen. Okay. And thank you, Dan, for interpreting. So without further ado, I will introduce our presenters. We're going to be talking about farmers and food access. And we have both David Nicholson, who's done all kinds of work around farmers being able to accept SNAP and EBT at farmers markets. And I should have asked you for a better bio. I didn't ask either of you for a bio. But
that's what I would have said.
So we have David Nicholson, and we also have Big River Farms farmer, Faro, who has been a SNAP educator as well as a farmer herself. And so I'll leave it to the two. Thank you. And Eric will also be joining the presentation.
Thanks, Laura.
Yeah.
And welcome to everyone. I'm pretty excited to be here. I should mention that this is a new presentation and this is the first run. So if it's a little bumpy,
All right.
Bear with it. But at any rate, let's go ahead and advance the slide one. I thought I would show you guys an agenda for the evening. We'll talk tonight in the first half about the types of benefits that are generally accepted or that producers are likely to see. We'll talk about why it might be worthwhile to fit low-income consumers and communities into your marketing plan. We'll take a break, as I understand it. And then in the second half, we'll go into more detail about how the benefit types that we've discussed in the first half, how you go about actually becoming authorized to accept those and the other things around it, accepting those. Finally, we'll talk about strategies for successfully marketing to low-income communities and consumers, because there are probably some special considerations around that. And I think there are probably a lot more opportunities to do things creatively in those circumstances. So hopefully we'll be able to all share ideas for how to do that at the last bit. What is that? This is what we hope to send you home with, or back to your farm with, or wherever you're going to go after this presentation tonight. I'll just read through these quickly. We hope that you'll become familiar with the types of food assistance. Hopefully you will learn more about the opportunities and challenges related to marketing to low-income communities and customers. As I mentioned, we'll talk about the methods for accepting various payments and complementary payment types. And then we'll talk about improving strategies for your success. We would like to hear about your experiences and ideas for this, because there's so many different ways that you can effectively meet low-income consumers' needs. And I know all of you are thinking about different things that you'll do with your farming experience, so hopefully you'll be able to bring some ideas of your own to this discussion. I should also mention where the bathrooms are. I think they're straight down that way, right? So if you need at any time during tonight's presentation to use the bathroom, feel free to get up and go down there. I know Laura is going to pass out these slides to you as a handout, so if you miss anything while you're out of the room, you should be able to catch up later. In addition, if you have a phone call to take or something like that, you're certainly welcome to do that as well. I only ask that you also do that out of the room rather than in the room, if you don't mind. And with that, I guess we can start. I wanted to start out by talking about SNAP first. SNAP stands for Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. It's the largest federal food assistance program. It's also the one that's most widely available and that people who are using the benefit can use to purchase the widest variety of foods. Let me just switch down. SNAP is generally, or can generally be used for any type of food that's generally intended to be purchased and taken home to prepare and eat. It can't be used for non-food items. It can't be used for ornamental foods or flowers. It can't be used for alcohol, tobacco, things like that. But again, it is one of the most widely available food assistance programs, and the one that allows beneficiaries to purchase the widest variety of foods. It's probably worth throwing out there, and this fact will come up a little bit later, that over the course of a lifetime, I think it's estimated 1 in 5 Americans will use the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program to help either them as individuals or their households meet nutritional needs. And it's pretty astounding to think of that, I think. 20% of the US population at some point or another will end up using food assistance or SNAP as a food assistance benefit. Another interesting thing about the SNAP program, which is very different than other food assistance programs that we'll talk about tonight, SNAP is an entitlement program. And what that means is that no matter how many people need to use SNAP and are eligible to use it, the federal government will continue paying out the benefits for that. It's not a program that has a budgetary cap. most of the other programs we'll talk about tonight are allocated a limited amount of resources, and once those are used up and spent in a given fiscal year, it's not possible for additional people to enroll, even if they're eligible for the program. Here's some, I won't go through these in detail since the handouts are going out anyway, but here's some other sort of general statistics around SNAP. And I should mention that these statistics, these percentages they overlap, these categories overlap. So if you do the math quickly, you're going to get to much more than 100% for either of these circles. But I think it's worthwhile to think about. Do you need something more? Oh. I think it's worth thinking about these numbers in particular because it's likely you're going to either encounter customers or sometimes market organizers, other vendors maybe, who are resistant to the idea of accepting food assistance and are also have thoughts about food assistance programs that aren't helpful for promoting the program or making people feel welcome at your market. But why I think these statistics can be important is to give you a sense of the great variety of people that are using food assistance. One thing that I think is really interesting to point out is 67% of families who benefit from SNAP are actually working, so they have a source of income. They just don't make enough income to meet the nutritional needs of their household, and so they use SNAP to supplement their nutritional needs. I have heard many times myself visiting farmers markets around the state. I've heard producers, market organizers, and customers talk about the lazy people who use food assistance, or the people who are using the government instead of finding work and figuring things out on their own. But I do think, again, it's important to realize that a lot of people who are using SNAP do work. There's also a large percentage of people who use SNAP that can't work because of disability, and a large percentage of people who use SNAP that are minor children who also can't work. Am I going too fast? Should I slow? Okay, I'll slow down. Congratulations to your first, for your first occasion. I wanted to talk also a little bit about SNAP in Minnesota, because I think this is going to frame up or put in perspective one of the reasons, at least, that it's important to think about accepting SNAP. So for fiscal year 2018, $550 million worth of SNAP benefits flowed through the state of Minnesota. Of that amount, probably less than 1% was spent with direct marketing farmers or at farmers markets. So to me, that says there's a great opportunity to reach more of these low-income people and take advantage of that $550 million in food assistance benefits that's flowing through the state. 416,000 Minnesotans, or a little bit more, were served by SNAP in 2018, and that's taking the average monthly users and annualizing it. And then about $110 is the average monthly benefit that SNAP beneficiaries get to use. The next program that we'll talk about tonight is the Farmers Market Nutrition Program. And there are two pieces to the Farmers Market Nutrition Program. The first is a component of the Women, Infants, and Children Program, which is a food assistance program and really a fairly comprehensive nutrition program that's directed at families with children between the ages of 0 and 5, and also directed at pregnant women to help them with both nutrition before a baby's born and nutrition after a baby's born. WIC also provides breastfeeding support to nursing mothers and does a lot of nutrition education with WIC recipients. The second component of the Farmers Market Nutrition Program is actually for seniors only. So it the farmers market nutrition programs hit both ends of the life cycle. And that program is funded by the nutritional, or as a component of the nutritional assistance program for seniors. This program is quite different, or both of these programs are quite different from SNAP. They're only for use at farmers markets. They can only be used to purchase fresh, locally grown fruits and vegetables. Program participants use paper vouchers that are in a set denomination. So the vouchers are worth $5 each. And I believe participants get 5 of them. It might be 4. Eric, do you know? Or do you know? If
I
it's,
don't know about Minnesota.
I think it's 5.
Five.
It's 5 things.
I think seniors like 7. I've seen a couple, because I collect those, so it's either 5 and 7 for senior, and then, yeah.
And they're $5 coupons for seniors as well, is that
I
right?
think so too, yeah, they're, and then for them to use it, they have to use it all. You can't, if they buy $4.
There's no change
yeah, there's no change.
for these, yeah. I'm glad you've used it. Who else has accepted either one of these voucher types coupons? So you have as well, you have. So I hope again, when we come to some of the discussion pieces of today's presentation, that you all will share the experiences you've had accepting these benefit types. And in particular, share your insight about how your farm stand or your CSA box or your market stand can help these low-income customers feel more welcome, make it easier for them to shop your product, et cetera, et cetera. So I hope you all will share those ideas. Let me just throw out there too that at least for fiscal year, I looked for more recent numbers, I couldn't find them. For fiscal year 2017, nationally there were 7.3 million served by at least the Women, Infant, and Children's program. And so that's quite a program that's quite a bit smaller than the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, but one that's certainly critical for the population it serves. We'll also talk a little bit tonight about some of the other sorts of coupon and incentive programs that you'll see at markets. One of those is the Market Bucks SNAP Matching Incentive Program, and those come in the form of little coupons. And you're nodding. It sounds like, I take that to mean maybe you've seen those coupons as well. And you've seen those as well? Oh, you've used the Market Bucks coupons. That's great. So again, I hope you'll share your experiences around those and what would make them easier to use. So as many of you, it sounds like, probably already know, Market Bucks matches SNAP benefits that are spent at the market, 1 for 1, up to $10 each visit. So
what does it mean to match SNAP benefits?
So if a customer wants to use their SNAP benefits at a participating farmer's market, and let's say they want to debit $5 from their SNAP benefits account, that $5 will be matched by an additional $5 in coupons that can be used to buy additional SNAP eligible food items. So $10 is the maximum match. So someone who is using SNAP at a market, if they wanted to debit $20 from their benefits account, they would still only get a $10 match for that day's purchases. Does that help?
Who's matching?
So the original program, I can give a little history. The program was started in 2010 as a pilot project at 3 markets in Minneapolis. The Minneapolis Farmers Market, the Midtown Farmers Market, and the Northeast Farmers Market. And it was a combined project of the Center for Prevention at Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Minnesota. Great, you're relieved. Should we just take a pause?
Yeah, let's take a small pause. We had a makeshift interpreter, but thank you so much, Dan. Let's give Dan a round of applause. And Eliza for coming at the last minute. Thank you.
Sorry.
And will you like wave your arms like this if I go too fast? So and I'll slow down. or something. So Market Bucks started in 2010 as a pilot and combined effort of the Center for Prevention of Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Minnesota. There was also funding provided by Hennepin County, the city of Minneapolis using federal money that they had received through a grant, and there was SHIP money involved as well. SHIP is the statewide health improvement partnership. So the program was funded that way in its first year. The Center for Prevention funded the program exclusively until the end of 2015. In 2015, the Minnesota State Legislature provided an appropriation for the Market Bucks program, so now it's funded by the state and administered by Hunger Solutions Minnesota. Let me throw out there too contact information and like further resources for things like Market Bucks. For much of the information we'll be discussing tonight is at the end of the slide presentation, so you'll be able to. You don't need to scramble to write notes super quickly. I think, so if Market Bucks started with 3 participating markets in 2010, for the 2018 season there were 99 participating markets throughout the state. The match also changed. Prior to 2016, the match was a $5 match. And the reason for that was because Blue Cross's interest was to shape consumer behavior and encourage people to use farmers markets regularly to purchase healthy foods. When Hunger Solutions took over the program, they changed the match to $10, and I'm speculating, but I have to assume that's because Hunger Solutions' primary interest and goal is to fight hunger. And so they saw a benefit in changing the emphasis or focus of the program from a health behavior change program to a feeding program. Oh, let me go through some of these others. I forgot they were up there. So another program which you're very likely to see at markets is called the Power of Produce program. How many of you have already seen Power of Produce? So there's one, two, a few out here. Great. This is one of my favorite programs ever. But this program encourages and empowers children to make healthy choices and to shop at farmers markets. Every time a kid who's participating in what's called the Pop Club, they're given a $2 token to spend at the market to buy an item of their choice. I think it's usually fresh fruits and vegetables, but I do know there's some variation from market to market in how that plays out. Since you've asked the funding question, POP is usually funded locally. So I can think of a wide variety of examples of funders: healthcare organizations, faith-based organizations, the local business community, foundations and grants. SHIP has provided some funding to the POP program, but it really varies from location to location. I already described the core component of the POP program, which is that $2 token piece. A lot of markets go beyond that by also providing related children's activities and other perks. Like I know a lot of markets get canvas bags that they give to kids to use to fill with their market purchases and stuff like that. Another program that you may see, but is less widely available, at least here in Minnesota, is the Veggie Prescription Program. And there are a number of different spins on this theme, which I think, Faro, you're going to talk about a little bit more later. But the basic idea is that these programs help low-income people primarily eat more healthily. And the vouchers that are given to these people are usually provided through a healthcare clinic or by some other healthcare provider, doctor. And I know that there are a few programs in Minnesota, at least, that are using veggie prescription programs primarily in populations that are either very prone to developing diabetes or have diabetes. And so they're hoping to encourage these people to eat more fresh fruits and vegetables in particular. So I think that those are the main programs that you would run across out in your experiences in the world. Some of them, as we've already discussed, are are available to producers that are using a wide variety of different marketing channels. Others of these programs are limited to use use in farmers market setting. So why would we care and bother with all of this? And for me, there are kind of two sides of that coin. The one side is that low-income people, really everyone, should be able to have access to good, healthy foods, and ideally locally grown foods. And I know a lot of you are learning organic methods or will be using organic methods. And isn't it nice to think of everyone having access to locally produced, organically grown, fresh fruits and vegetables and other products of farm and field? So to me, that's kind of the part of the social justice argument. There's some other arguments that go along with that. For example, I think of the way that farmers markets provide so many other benefits to all communities and should be able to provide those benefits to low-income communities as well. The social connection opportunities that they offer, the opportunity for people to get information and get access to resources in their community. Oftentimes, though, it's hard to support a farmer's market in a low-income community, and these benefit types really, in some cases, are the only thing that allow farmers markets to continue to exist and thrive in low-income communities. So that's kind of a little bit on the social justice side of that coin. The other side of the coin has to do more with the market opportunity there. A lot of times, competition is lower in these areas. I think too, not only competition from other producers, or maybe having farmers markets really close together, but also oftentimes in these communities there are fewer other retail food outlets, in particular retail food outlets that offer fresh fruits and vegetables and things like that. So if you're looking for a less crowded field, low-income communities might provide a good opportunity. In addition, I'm a big farmers market fan, but really farmers market, CSAs, other types of direct market farming, wholesale, stuff like that, those are kind of the obvious choices. They're the easy choices in many ways, as hard as they are. I really think that figuring out how to sell into low-income communities is a greater challenge, but also provides a real range of opportunities for being creative, developing really interesting partnerships, extending your marketing reach into places where you probably wouldn't be able to go on your own. And we will talk again about some of those things more later. The overall point is there's a social justice case to be made. I also think there's a good economic market case to be made for thinking about low-income communities as you form your marketing plan or business plan. So I thought after that little bit, and I'm glad to know that many of you have some experience with some of these programs, that it would be worth turning to the person sitting next to you and discussing a little bit of what you might have already seen, what you've been thinking about, and what plans you have. So where have you seen food assistance being used? What are some reasons you think low-income customers and communities might fit into your plan? What do you imagine you might need in order to successfully market into a plan? So if we could take like a few minutes, talk to the person next to you, talk about what ideas you have, share what ideas you have, and then we'll come back as a group and we can go around and share some of the ideas that you all had in couples or threes or whatever. I think that would be great. Does that feel okay to everyone? And is everyone clear on the assignment? Terrific. I have a feeling we're going to do the slides after a half hour. That's a third of the time.
What time? Oh, 6:30?
Yeah.
And
I think it's 2 hours. So we started at 6, so we have to wait. usually more or less? You know what, too? Could you do me a favor? Because it's hard for me to follow the notes and look out if I skip important points that I do. The notes, or you think of things. Can you keep me or just say?
Okay, sure. I wasn't looking
Just
at
jump in
them.
and don't don't forget about these. And, you know, become the expert on it if you want to in that moment, whatever.
No, you've been very good. No.
So like for the farmers market program, that one is like farmers market. But for like to get PT, to accept PT, then you as a vendor. That one's not for PT, like you as a vendor for farmers. But for the other one,
If I get to be approved, or you have to go terminal, that's what they call it. They were there like a couple of years ago. Guys, they were saying free. They were giving away free terminal, but you had to give up one of your stores, one of your microsim and stuff. Like you gotta, I give up. Like you gotta tell them that you're going to this stuff on your market, and you're approved to get one for. Yeah. I don't know. I haven't seen them because they were there at the minority farm. Like 3, 4 years ago. I jumped on it. Was it? Laura, was there? When I
Extra PowerPoint. Maybe are there. Okay.
¿Quiénes producen alimentos? Esta parte no
Looks like people might be starting to wind down or change subjects.
Yeah, I was talking about something.
bajo este sistema tuviera
Are people about ready to draw back to the
Realmente,
Group conversation?
barato.
Want to keep going? Yeah, go ahead. Maybe a couple more minutes.
O su costo de producción sería menos, aunque sus ganancias serían mayores. Porque ahorita en los insumos es donde la norma de la producción orgánica es de
I was trying to look at the.
Can you see that? Good. Well, like I say, kick me or feel free.
Okay.
Shall we try to bring things back together? I know I heard at this table some stuff when I was wandering around, some stuff about getting right into the details of how to accept these things. At this table, I think I heard some stuff about maybe thinking about different ways to segment your market groups so that you're providing certain kinds of produce to some market segments and certain kinds to others, maybe a little bit of pricing differentials as well between different market segments. I didn't get a chance to listen in on this table very much, but I wonder if we can start sharing ideas. Is there a table or a group who would be willing to give a few high points from the discussion that they had or ideas that they thought about related to these three questions or other things that came up during the first bit of the presentation? This is my favorite part when people look at me stony-faced.
Yeah, I have seen people in particularly my community using EBT card at the grocery store, but not much at the farmer market, probably due to some farmers they don't accept it or don't have the machine. But I just have a bias about maybe people just have a sense of not feel comfortable to use EBT at the farmer market. That could be my assumption, but it could be the case. Basically, it's good to have a machine and what allows low-income family to have access to fresh vegetables. So that's what I see.
This is a really good point, I think, which to me kind of brings up this whole idea of how do we make customers who are using food assistance feel as comfortable as every other customer who's shopping at the market. And it's, I think, an issue here in the city. If any of you end up marketing in greater Minnesota, it's a huge issue in greater Minnesota. The sense of stigma that people feel when they're using food assistance often prevents them from using food assistance in the first place and using it at places like farmers markets where they're likely to know many of the producers themselves or run into their neighbors at the market. So that's what you've seen as well.
Well, I was just going to say that makes sense because there's a stigma about it. And so right away, sometimes people want to hide that they have some sort of food assistance. In a farmer's market, you're out in the open, you're seeing a lot of people, it's a little intimidating as opposed to just going to a grocery store and just meeting one person in line at the cashier that's picking your stuff up, or you're using the machine. No one even has to know.
I do think that's a good point. There is often a difference between the experience people have at a grocery store. SNAP is often much more invisible there, or the use of an EBT card is often much more visible there compared to a farmer's market. So we'll come back to this topic again towards the end of the presentation. So I'm glad it came up now because you guys can be thinking about what can I do as a producer to make everyone feel more comfortable at the market, or maybe to help a farmer's market even think about how to make use of food assistance more comfortable for everyone. Thanks for contributing that. Anything else from this table?
Mr. Moore,
Yeah.
I like the ideas about having one terminal machines with the market manager, and the customer can just exchange their EBT with tokens, whatever, and it brings you, I think in that situation, make the customer feel more comfortable. This is our core person and using the EBT in front of you. So I like that because that's not farm market, they do have the EBT machine and just trade their EBT balance with the manager, they get token and spend whatever they want. So that is more convenient and then
So I think that's a good point. It really goes to at least one of the ways that stigma can be, the potential for stigma can be reduced, is having, if you are selling in a market, instead of accepting EBT on your own or SNAP benefits on your own, encourage your market to accept it on behalf of all the vendors, and also encourage them to accept credit and debit cards alongside that, so that lots of different people who are using lots of different kinds of cards are using them at the market. Thanks for that. And again, we'll return to some of those different options in the second half of the.
So I come from Greater Minnesota, down south, and a lot of people aren't aware of the programs that are available to them. So I think one of the biggest helpful things that we've done is provide the information booth, where you have somebody that's consistent behind that information booth that knows the correct information on informing people about the SNAP, about the market price, about the top up. And so that makes them feel more comfortable to return also.
You know what, this is another great point. And in all the years that I've been working with farmers markets and others in helping them accept SNAP and do a better job of attracting and retaining low-income customers, the thing that comes up and comes up and comes up, relationships are so key. So not only will you need to work on developing strong relationships with all your customers, and maybe you'll need to put a little extra work in it for people who are low income, but a market really should be putting a great face forward for the market and working as a market as a whole to develop strong relationships with all their customers and low-income customers in particular. And one way to do that is to have that single consistent face week after week after week at the market to help people out. So yeah. Did you guys have other things that in your discussion that you wanted to add?
We were talking a little bit about, your question here is what do you imagine we might need to do to make cards more attractive and accessible to low-income consumers?
Yeah, what were you thinking on that?
So in my background in nutrition is I constantly get people that come to me because they need to lose weight. When they're on a food budget. And those two things together, they just don't mix. And we have to deal with the first issue of how do we get access to more food. So maybe as the vendor is maybe taking a second look at what do you do with the seconds. Maybe we sell those at a reduced price for those people who are on low income and are living on a budget. And they only have $250 for the month to spend on their food. So finding different unique ways to make that more attractive to them. But useful example.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. And again, hold that in mind too for the second half, because between having maybe selling seconds at a reduced price and in bulk quantities can be one way to tackle that question. Another way might be to do smaller portion sizes, or providing baskets which have a variety of different produce items in them, rather than requiring someone to spend. I think the going rate in the Twin Cities these days is $3 a tray or 2 for $5. But you know, a whole tray of something is a lot for a single or a senior. So maybe figuring out ways that you could mix more things together to have lots of different vegetables in one tray. So we'll come back. That's another great
I got something on that too.
Yeah.
Some markets, they're gonna like it. You have a lot on a tray. Some markets, they don't wanna buy it that much. They even ask, can we have half? And you're selling for $3 on a big basket. And when they said they want half of it, you're already losing $1.50, because they want half and they're gonna pay $1.50 for what you could just sell $3 for that small.
That's a fair point. At some point, it doesn't become worth it to the producer to do that. And I don't know if I have great responses to that. And I should mention, by the way, my partner is a producer and sells at markets and CSA and stuff, so I hear about these issues a lot. And I don't know what the right response is to that. Sometimes I think it's striking a balance between the short game of I need to make money today and developing a strong relationship with a customer that you know is going to keep coming back to you and back to you and back to you because you're able to be accommodating. And it might be splitting the difference between a half tray of something and a full tray. Like I say, maybe it's the same quantity of stuff, but it's a mix of things that you've already thought about how to put together before you've come to market. I don't know the right answer, but again, keep that in the back of your head because we should talk more about options around that.
Yeah, my question is, this is the basis to the elderly, and when they came and when we go to class, they say we need to look the ID, make sure that it's the right person for the SNAP, and they hand out the voucher to us, but they don't have any identification at all, and we want to take the voucher, but we scared because they don't have any proof. And so how do the SNAP going to be working with the elderly? Sometimes they forgot, and sometimes they don't know where they get it from. It's really hard for the farmer to make decision because we look at the person and feel like we really want to get a proof for them and we're going to accept that one, but it's no proof. And so the producer had a really hard time to communicate with the buyer.
So the question is about requirements for accepting certain kinds of benefits, and I'm gonna add or change a little bit of your understanding of that to say, so the Farmers Market Nutrition Program, which we discussed and defined, requires the person who's using a voucher to show a form of ID or they get a little envelope or folder to put their benefits in. What do you do if a customer has their coupon but they don't have that ID because they really need to go together? I hate to advise on questions like this. So I'm going to take the letter. I'm going to go by the rules. The rules say you just can't accept them, and I know that the communication of that can be complicated. Maybe there's a different way to work out a transaction that can make sense for both parties without the use of the voucher, and maybe there's not. That's what the rules would say. I know that sometimes it's worth bending the rules, but I don't encourage that, especially with Farmers Market Nutrition Program, because those guys actually do come by and do what they call compliance buys, which they're trying to make sure that you're following the rules. And if they catch you not following the rules, then they'll revoke your ability to accept the benefit. So with Farmers Market Nutrition Program, I would tend to hew to the rules or stick to the rules. SNAP actually doesn't have a requirement that you need to show an ID when you use the card. And that's where I wanted to kind of maybe modify your understanding a little bit. So you don't need to worry about asking for an ID or for a customer needing to have an ID in order to use SNAP. I'm sure there are lots of other good ideas out there that you guys discussed. In the interest of time, I feel like we should jump back in to the presentation and let you know that there'll be additional opportunity for discussion and questions later. Is everyone comfortable with? So thanks very much for that, for taking the time to talk about that and for the feedback. It looks like we're kind of towards the end of the first half anyway. So let's just do a quick review of the first half. And then I think we'll take actually a fast break because we're about halfway through. This is what we've learned. And if you feel like we've learned other things that aren't up here, or you go, did we really learn that? Can we talk about it a little bit more? Then please jump in. But I hope that we learned that people from diverse backgrounds, all different descriptions, and living in various circumstances use food assistance. We talked about there being two components, two sides of the coin for reasons to think about fitting low-income communities and consumers into your marketing plan. The one having to do with some of those social justice issues, and the other having to do with, it could be actually a really good marketing opportunity. We talked about the main types of food assistance that you'd be likely to see at a farmer's market, and we talked about some of the incentive and matching programs that you're also likely to see. I feel like too, we primed the pump a little bit for the second half of the discussion, which will be going into some of the specifics of accepting food assistance payments, including some of the rules and regulations that surround those. And then we'll move some of the ideas we've already heard from the first half into a more lengthy discussion of ideas for making your marketing efforts more successful in low-income communities and to low-income consumers. Things that I missed in that list that you'd like to add, questions that you have about things that happened in the first half before we move on? So as would be said in my kids' classes, this is the opportunity to stand up, shake your sillies out, use the restroom, yada, 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 and then we'll come back and what's the usual?
Like 4 or 5 minutes. Let's come back at
7 o'clock, say?
7 o'clock, yeah.
Just to make it a nice round number.
I will say too that please, if you have not yet filled out this short survey about classes and field days, you can also take the break to do that and put it in that survey.
You're shaking your shoulders.
I wish I had like a hot water.
Don't they have a they don't have a oh. What market do you sell at? Or,
I'm in Otana.
oh, yeah.
Yeah, so
Oh, is that right?
Yeah,
Have we met before then? Because you look kind of familiar, and I know I
Maybe?
worked
Where?
like maybe at a farmers market association meeting or something like that.
Yeah. So I was just at the,
The
Tiffany
most
trip.
recent? I recognize the name,
Okay.
and it's possible
Okay.
that we've actually met, but
Okay. So I organized the Medford Farmers Market and then.
yeah. Because you
Okay.
presented actually at the Minnesota Farmers Market.
With Tiffany was with me.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so she
That's
was the
where
one that
I
had the ducks.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
And David Katsonis was another of the presenters in your session.
Yeah. So that was interesting. So we offer all of those things, and I know I was going to ask you boring government questions. I know that a couple of years ago they were talking about they were having problems with like funding the Market Box program. Do you anticipate any of those problems coming in the future?
Well, I mean, it's always hard to say. Market Bucks does have pretty strong bipartisan support, actually. And it just got added. So I'm not a policy guy.
Yeah.
So
it
just got added as a tail in a regular appropriations bill, which suggests that it will
continue
to be automatically renewed. Like it doesn't have to come back up for discussion or things like that. It's part of a package that usually moves forward on its own.
I found that people really, granted, we're in Greater Minnesota, and this is all new to Otana, and so a lot of people were not.
What's going to accept it?
Well, they have 2 markets. So they have the Central Park one on Saturday, which doesn't follow any sort of food safety rules. Like everything goes. Like people are selling vegan cheese there without a license. And so we opened up a different one that that does follow, you know, cottage foods and things like that. And then we offer the SNAP and the EBT. And then this year, I think we're going to get United Way to fund the first year of our Pop Club program.
Oh, fun.
So yeah, so really,
Pop.
yeah.
That's something I'd like to see more state support behind.
Yeah, well, because Kathy Zeben had said that they were going to take that to the legislature for funding. The Pop Club. I think she kind of briefly mentioned it, that maybe it was something they were going to start to do.
And she's mentioned that to me too.
Yeah.
Again, since I don't know if that happens. Let's just leave it at that.
Yeah. But I think though that, like, I don't think that we'll have any problem with getting organizations to support it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
People love stuff.
it's such a no-brainer, frankly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, I'm glad you're here tonight, so thanks. Yeah. So you've used So it's 7:02. So we went 2 minutes past our designated break time. So let's bring the conversation back, and let's start talking, kind of getting into more of the details around some of these food assistance programs. So if you wondered in the first half, so who can do it? How do you do it? This is the part where in which we'll begin talking about that. First, let's go through. So who can accept SNAP or who can accept benefits? And as you can see from the chart here, and again, you'll have these to take home, but there's a little bit of variation in who can accept which types of benefits. So let's start with SNAP. And I didn't say this earlier, so I'm going to say it now. SNAP is one of many benefits that's stored on electronic benefits cards or EBT cards. It's the one that we'll primarily be concerned with, but that's why there's a separate column for SNAP and for EBT, because you can accept SNAP without accepting EBT cards. And frankly, for a lot of producers, that might end up making sense for reasons that will become clear in a moment. But back to the chart. So who can accept SNAP? SNAP authorized producers or farmers markets that are selling SNAP eligible foods, and we'll talk more about what those foods are later in the presentation. Anyone who accepts SNAP needs to hold a service agreement with a service provider. And if you're only accepting SNAP, really the only service provider to consider is FIS Global Solutions. The reason why I call them out by name is because for the state of Minnesota, they are the state's master contractor for SNAP in EBT, so that no matter where an EBT card is being swiped, no matter where SNAP benefits are being redeemed, the last gateway that the transaction passes through before money moves from the U.S. Treasury into the merchant's bank account is FIS Global Solutions. There will be lots of merchant services providers that you talk to or could talk to who have no idea what SNAP is, or some of the more interesting and creative and low-cost ways that producers can accept it. So if you're only thinking about accepting SNAP, the merchant services provider you should talk to is FIS Global Solutions, and you'll probably end up using what are called manual offline food vouchers. And these are basically pieces of paper that you would use when a customer comes to you and says, I would like to purchase something using my SNAP benefits. You would write the transaction amount onto the voucher, some customer information, and then you would also make a telephone call to put an authorization hold for the transaction amount on the customer's benefit account. If they do have the benefits available to spend for that transaction, then you would be given an authorization number that you could record on the voucher. Sometime later, probably in the warmth and comfort of your own home, you would clear that transaction using a free wired card reader that FIS Global Solutions would provide to you. And by wired, I mean it needs a telephone jack and electrical outlet to work. The nice thing about this leftmost column for many direct marketing farmers, people who are thinking about CSAs as part of their marketing plan, yada yada, is that you don't need a fairly expensive wireless card reader machine to perform these transactions. All of this is free. The vouchers are free, the transaction costs are free, and the service agreement and plan that goes with it is free. So this is a great entry option, and one of the best options, I think, whether entry or not, for people who are doing CSA, other sorts of box shares, or have a farm stand or something like that. EBT is kind of the next bump up. Who can accept EBT? The same people who can accept SNAP. But to accept EBT cards, you do need a more sophisticated means of performing the transaction. You need a card reader machine. You can get that wired free card reader machine to perform these transactions, but a lot of times, you know, when you're out in the field, there's not a place to plug in, so that option doesn't make a lot of sense. You can also get wireless EBT only machines and service that goes along with that. Usually costs for that are somewhere in between no service and what it would cost to have a full function terminal that can accept EBT and other payment types like credit and debit. For Senior Farmers Market Nutrition Program and Farmers Market Nutrition Program, and I've just condensed those two programs with that S and slash, but it really covers both programs as I talk about it moving forward. There's only one way to do that, and that's to go to a training at the Minnesota Department of Agriculture. You need to be trained and authorized as a vendor to accept farmers market nutrition programs or senior farmers market nutrition programs. And as you pointed out earlier, or as I heard when you guys were talking around the table, the market you sell at also needs to be authorized to accept farmers market nutrition program coupons and or